Hello, welcome to Leo Megan. My name is Megan Chen and I'm a speech and language therapist, and I've been doing this for coming to 25 years. Today I'd like to share specifically about some factors that affect speech and language development and may contribute to a child having speech and language difficulties. This is actually one of the most popular pages on our website, and I thought I'd like to share some information, additional information about this. Okay, so let me just go down the list and elaborate on some of these factors. So the first one is actually speech and language stimulation. That means talking, playing with your child. Now, obviously, this plays a part in a child's speech and language development. It's good to know that sometimes it's not just how much talking that you do to the child. Some children are just going to have more difficulties with speech and language. So it's good for you to be working with a speech and language therapist so that you know that whether or not you're on the right track. Are you doing the right things? Because sometimes you may be doing the right things and it would work for other children. Maybe you work for your child's cousins or your child's schoolmates, but your child may just need a little bit more. So you know that your child needs more in terms of frequency, in terms of intensity, and also in terms of specific areas that a speech and language therapist can actually help you to diagnose and to work out. Okay, point number two, a child may have difficulties more because of a delayed general development, what we call global delay, or just delay in speech and language. Okay, so some children may have no difficulties with their motor skills. They meet all the motor milestones, okay, but may have more difficulties with the speech and language, speech and language development. Okay, number three, this factor is about specific difficulties with language learning. All right, just as everybody is different, if you look around yourself, and your friends, your colleagues, and so forth, as adults, we're all different. We've got different strengths and weaknesses. So some people are going to be better at sports. Okay, some people are going to be better at music and art. So some people are just not going to be so good with their language. So the child may not be very interested in language. Maybe he or she is more interested in something more hands-on, and they are going to need, again, additional help. Okay, point number four is poor control and or poor coordination of the speech muscles. Obviously, this will affect speech. Okay, with some children, it's a matter of poor muscle tone, as in you may see a lot of drooling. You may see that they're not so good at eating and chewing. They may be more picky about food because of this, or you see them coming in and they come in with their mouth open like this, because of the muscle tone around the lips. And they may have more difficulties with speech because that's how we produce different sounds. When I'm talking to you, when you are talking to other people, we produce different speech sounds, or the different letters of the alphabet from A to Z. And we do that by moving our lips, our tongue differently. So you need to be able to control the accuracy of the movements. You need to be able to obviously do it, and not just be able to do it, but to be able to do it very easily and very quickly, right? So that you can produce all the different speech sounds and produce a word or a sentence. Okay, now number five, of course, it could be medical issues. Sometimes when children are, have other medical issues, it may mean that they're in the hospital for a while, so they will miss school, so it's going to affect the speech and language development. Number six is inadequate awareness of communication, or what we call the child may lack communication intent. This means that with some children, they may be very good with picking up speech. Maybe they're very good at picking up names or letters of the alphabet. They can even tell you different shapes or name you different dinosaurs and so forth. But they're not very good at working out what communication is all about, communication intent. Now, as adults, for example, we know that we communicate not just by speech. Sometimes you are saying something, you're saying something to person A, but you know that the message is actually intended for person B in the room and so forth. So we actually communicate in lots of different ways. So that's what we mean by communication intent. Okay, you know that somebody's trying to say something to you, or you know that you're intending a message to be going out to somebody else. And for some children, they may not be very good at working out communication intent. So if they don't know how to express themselves, first of all, it's going to be really frustrating for them, because they'll be wondering, why is it I cannot get what I want? So for them, it may be much easier to do it physically. Just grab whatever it is. It's easier for them to do it physically, rather than to go through the cognitive and also the oral motor process of thinking about what to say, or to be able to move your lip and tongue to actually say the sentence or say the word. Okay, factor number 7 is actually reduced hearing. For example, ear infection, fluid in the ear, impacted earwax, or auditory processing difficulties. Okay, one thing I find myself sharing very often with parents is that in young children, there is a tube between the nose and the ear. Now, in grown-ups, the tube is actually more of like, at this angle. So even if you've got a runny nose, it's very hard for fluids to actually run up the slope, towards the ear. But in young children up to about 3 years old, the tube is actually almost horizontal. So anytime they've got a flu, anytime they've got a runny nose, it's actually quite easy for liquid to get to the ear. And of course, children are not always able to tell you when they feel any discomfort or pain. And the liquid in the ear, or any earwax, any ear infections, is obviously going to affect how much stimulation he's actually able to benefit from. Okay, so this could contribute to speech and language difficulties. Or the child could have what we call an auditory processing difficulty, where there's no problem with hearing, but they have more difficulty sometimes with what we call the acoustics of working out what the speech is, to be able to filter out the background noises and so forth, and focus on the speech sounds. Or the processing difficulty may be more linguistic in nature. In other words, it has to do with their language proficiency. The same way that if you're not very good with a second language or a foreign language, you're going to find that any noises affect you more. Whereas if it's your first language, something you're very proficient in, you could be in a noisy pub and could still be able to overcome those difficulties. Okay, some of the other pointers I'll just go through quickly. For example, changes in the child's environment. Again, maybe a lot of moving. It may affect the child psychologically. Take some time to settle in school and so forth. Exposure to too many languages for the child. Again, maybe child is just not in a position to benefit from it. Some other kids, yes, they might grow up trilingual, bilingual if they're exposed to different languages, but for some children it's not so easy for them to pick up speech and language anyway, so it's better to focus on one. The next pointer, inadequate opportunity for speech. For example, it could be the child that everybody talks for, maybe the youngest child in the family, or maybe he or she has a more dominant sibling. So again, that may contribute to it. Okay, but it's not usually the factor that explains all the difficulty, and it would suggest that the child is more at risk for a speech and language issue. Okay, number 11, some emotional factors, for example, behavioral problems, anxiety. The next point, short attention span. Now, these two actually interact with speech and language in the sense that sometimes when a child has got, emotional issues or attention issues or behavioral issues, it could be because of a speech and language difficulty in the first place. Many of our students who've been through therapy will find that the parents will find that the behavior, the attention, and in fact their personality, they feel happier, they're more confident because they're able to express themselves better. And of course, number 13, family history. Family history affects how a child is able to move through the different stages, the different milestones. Sometimes things like reading difficulties or stuttering, there will be more risk if there is a family member involved who also has a problem. Okay, so those are the common factors that affect speech and language development. Again, if you'd like to find out more information, or if you have any concerns, one easy way is to just get some help from a qualified speech and language therapist, and our contact information is on the website. Thank you very much.